Imagine walking into a courtroom. You look across the aisle at the lawyer who is, actively representing the person suing you, and you just say, "Hey, can you represent me too?"
I mean, you would never do it. It goes against every instinct of self-preservation.
Exactly, you just wouldn't. But in the high-stakes, highly emotional world of real estate, buyers actually do exactly that every single day.
Yeah, all the time.
And the craziest part is they usually have no idea they're even doing it.
Right, because it's just the accepted norm in the industry.
Yeah.
We've basically been conditioned to view buying a house as a straightforward retail transaction.
Like buying a pair of shoes.
Exactly. You just type a zip code into a search bar, filter for 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and you click. But underneath that really simple interface is a deeply complex mechanical system.
A system that, frankly, is fundamentally working against the buyer.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. So welcome. If you're listening to this and you've tried to buy a home recently, especially in a hyper-competitive region, the exhaustion of chasing listings.
The burnout is real.
It really is. The feeling of being treated like just another metric by the industry. So today we are dismantling that system. We're looking at a pretty fascinating stack of materials today, actually.
Yeah, we have documentation from a firm called Cobbleridge Realty, plus some structural blueprints of a corporate benefit called the Employee Homeownership Assistance Program.
Or EHAP. Right.
Right.
We also have breakdowns of 0% commission private sales and the training manuals of an agent coaching platform called Agent Leap.
And our mission here is to sort of decode how all these different elements combine into a radical new ecosystem. It's specifically centered around the Long Island markets, so Nassau and Suffolk counties.
Which is notorious for low inventory and incredibly high taxes.
Right. But what we're really looking at is a blueprint for flipping the traditional real estate model entirely upside down. It's really about replacing a sales-driven approach with pure buyer advocacy.
And it does this by treating home ownership not just as a solitary weekend side project, but as an actual workplace benefit.
Which is a huge mental shift.
It is. It eliminates structural conflicts of interest, and it actually uses AI to educate rather than just, sell to you.
Oh, but before we can get to the corporate benefits or the AI, we really have to start at the foundation. We have to understand exactly what is broken in the traditional process.
Right, and there's a phrase in these documents that really stuck with me. It says, home buyers aren't categories, they're fingerprints.
That really is the philosophical core of this entire shift.
Yeah.
I mean, the traditional industry runs on volume, right? Which means it relies on categorization.
It wants to put you in a neat little box.
Exactly. The system wants to treat you as a demographic. But a buyer isn't a demographic. Every single buyer has a completely unique reality. Think about it. You might have one buyer who is navigating subtle credit challenges and needs a really specific financing structure. Then you have another who is relocating for a new job and absolutely must close within 30 days.
Or growing families needing specific school districts.
Right. And then downsizers trying to unlock equity from a house they've owned for 30 years. They all have entirely different financial pressures and timelines.
But the industry just forces them all into this one-size-fits-all funnel. Just get them in the door of a showing and close the deal.
Yeah. And the biggest trap hidden inside that funnel is what we mentioned at the very beginning, your courtroom analogy.
Ah, right. Dual agency.
Yes. Dual agency is arguably the most dangerous, muddy water a buyer can step into. In a traditional brokerage model, you frequently have the same real estate firm representing both the buyer and the seller.
Wait, and sometimes it's literally the exact same individual agent, right, in the exact same transaction.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I imagine buyers just don't notice this because they're blinded by the house. You walk into a beautiful open house on a Sunday afternoon and you just fall in love with the kitchen.
And the agent is so nice.
Right. The friendly listing agent hands you a fresh-baked cookie and says, "Oh, I can just write the offer up for you." It feels like a really convenient shortcut.
But you don't realize you just surrendered all your negotiation leverage. It feels efficient, but legally and practically, the agent's ability to advocate for you is instantly neutralized.
Because they work for the seller.
Exactly. Think about the mechanics of negotiation. How can an agent aggressively fight for you to pay less or demand serious structural repairs after an inspection?
They can't. Not if they are simultaneously legally obligated to help the seller net the highest possible profit.
Right. They literally can't. They shift from being an advocate to just being a neutral mediator.
And if I'm a buyer in a brutal market like Long Island, trying to navigate astronomical property taxes and commuting trade-offs, I mean, a neutral mediator is the last thing I need. I need a shield.
100%. And that brings up the critical question of why this practice is so heavily protected by the traditional industry.
Let me guess. The money.
Of course.
Yeah.
The simple answer is the financial incentive. In a traditional transaction, the seller pays a commission, say 5 or 6%, which is then split between the seller's brokerage and the buyer's brokerage.
But in dual agency.
The brokerage keeps the entire pie. They double end the deal. So the financial incentive to keep the buyer in-house is just massive.
Wow. Okay, so to counter this, the materials highlight how Cobbleridge Realty operates entirely as an exclusive buyer agent,
Correct. They represent only the buyer, never the seller.
which strips away that conflict of interest entirely.
Completely. When an exclusive buyer agent evaluates a property with you, their only objective is to find the flaws, identify the inspection risks, and calculate the true value based on your specific financial fingerprint.
So if a house is overpriced or if the taxes are going to break your debt-to-income ratio in 3 years, they tell you.
Yeah, because they have zero financial incentive to push that house on you.
Yeah.
Their loyalty isn't divided.
Okay, so that establishes the standard of advocacy. You need an exclusive fiduciary who is completely on your side. But here is the massive practical problem.
The barrier to entry.
Exactly. If you are a stressed first-time buyer on Long Island, staring at a market where starter homes are fiercely contested, I mean, how do you even get access to this level of customized, high-level advocacy? It feels incredibly intimidating.
This is where the real paradigm shift happens in these sources. The solution isn't found by walking into a traditional real estate office. It's actually found in your HR department.
Yes, this is the part that totally rewired how I think about corporate perks.
It's called EHAP.
We're not talking about casual Fridays or like free gym memberships anymore. We're talking about an employer offering you a pathway to actually owning the town you work in.
Exactly. To understand how powerful this is, we need to look closely at how the program is structured. So EHAP stands for the Employee Homeownership Assistance Program.
Right.
It is a no-cost real estate benefits program built around education, guidance, and clarity of service. The Employee Homeownership Assistance Program connects employers with a meaningful benefit they can offer their workforce.
Which is huge for the employees.
Yeah, it's one that helps employees move closer to homeownership with greater confidence and less confusion. Through these employer partnerships, companies can provide access to homebuyer education, trusted real estate professionals, local market insight, and support throughout the home buying process.
Okay, hold on. No cost is a massive red flag for me. I mean, HR departments don't just hand out free, dedicated real estate advisors. There's always a bill somewhere. Who's actually paying for this?
You'd think there would be a catch, right? But the funding mechanism is actually just a redirection of existing money. It requires zero budget from the employer's HR department.
Wait, really? Zero?
Zero. And there are no out-of-pocket advisory fees or subscription costs for the employee. The services are funded entirely through standard real estate commission splits and only upon a successful closing.
Ah, okay. So the exclusive buyer's agent does all the upfront heavy lifting, the education, the financial planning, the market analysis, betting on the fact that when the employee is finally confident and ready to buy, they'll use that agent to close the deal.
Precisely. It aligns everyone's incentives toward long-term success. So for employees, EHAP transforms homeownership from just a personal dream into a valuable workplace benefit.
It makes it tangible.
Yes, it gives buyers a clearer path by helping them understand their options, the steps involved,
Yeah.
and the professionals and resources available to support them along the way.
And if you look at the macroeconomics of Long Island, this is brilliant for the employer. There's a massive talent retention crisis there.
Absolutely.
Companies are losing incredible employees to lower-cost states, not because the employees hate their jobs, but because they simply cannot afford to plant roots near the office.
Exactly. By offering this, the employer is basically saying, we want you to stay, and we are giving you the strategic tools to make it possible. That's the retention angle.
What does that look like for a first-time buyer on a practical level, though? Because if you've never bought a home, you don't even know what you don't know. The anxiety isn't just about money.
It's about making a catastrophic mistake.
Exactly.
And that's why, for first-time home buyers, EHAP can be especially impactful. Many buyers are unsure where to begin, how much they may be able to afford, or what steps should come first.
It's overwhelming.
It is. EHAP helps simplify that journey by offering education, structure, and professional support from the earliest planning stages all the way through closing.
They utilize a framework they call the 8 pillars of smart home buying, right?
Yeah, which walks the employee through everything from credit repair guidance to understanding mortgage pre-approvals, long before they ever look at a listing.
Okay, so logically, let's look at where this leaves us. EHAP solves the buyer's preparation problem. You now have this army of highly educated, financially verified employees.
Who understand their debt-to-income ratios and know exactly what they want.
Right. But on Long Island, that just means you have highly educated buyers staring at absolutely zero available inventory.
Yeah, that's the bottleneck.
The whole system just collapses if there's literally nothing to buy. Unless, of course, you can access a secondary market.
Which brings us to the most disruptive mechanical shift in this entire model unlocking the off-market. Because these buyers are fully verified and exclusively represented by Cobbleridge, the firm doesn't have to wait for houses to pop up on the local multiple listing service, the MLS.
They can proactively approach private sellers. This is the 0% commission flip. I really want to break down the math on this because it completely changes the leverage in a real estate transaction.
It really does.
Normally, if you own a home and you want to sell, you list it on the MLS. And to do that, you agree to pay a listing broker around 5 or 6% of the total sale price. On an $800,000 home, that is $40,000 to $48,000 just evaporating from your equity just to sell the house.
Right. Or a seller tries to go for sale by owner to save that money. And what happens? They end up drowning in unvetted buyers, complex legal paperwork, and just marketing nightmares.
It's a disaster.
It usually is. What Cobbleridge offers is a third, entirely different path. Because they already hold this pipeline of ready-to-go EHAP buyers, they can approach a seller directly and offer a quiet match.
And if the seller's home matches what the EHAP buyer is looking for, the seller pays exactly 0% in listing commission.
Yep, zero.
It changes everything. So instead of the traditional MLS, which is basically a bidding war in a glass room where everyone can see your panic, this is more like a closed-door private acquisition.
That's a perfect way to conceptualize it. The seller avoids the entire circus of public open houses. They don't have unqualified tire kickers wandering through their living room on a Sunday.
Nobody wants that.
No. And they don't have to sign a 6-month exclusive listing contract just to see if a buyer even exists. They get a private, streamlined transaction with a buyer who has verified employment and financing.
And the seller keeps that $40,000 in equity. But again, the money has to come from somewhere. How is the exclusive buyer agent getting paid if the seller is paying 0%?
Well, in this specific off-market scenario, the buyer pays the fee to Cobbleridge because Cobbleridge is exclusively representing them and brokering the match.
Which sounds scary for a buyer at first.
It does, because buyers historically prefer not to pay the commission directly. But in this case, it mathematically works in their favor. Because the seller is saving 5 or 6% on their end, the buyer actually has massive leverage to negotiate a lower overall purchase price.
I see.
It creates a transactional environment where both sides win based on efficiency rather than a bidding war.
It's an incredibly elegant solution to the inventory crisis. But managing this entire ecosystem, partnering with corporate HR departments, guiding hundreds of employees through financial education, actively hunting for off-market private sellers, and then matching them up, that requires a level of operational infrastructure that you just can't manage on a legal pad.
No, you definitely can't. And that is where the technology layer becomes the engine driving this entire model. The blueprints detail a highly sophisticated AI infrastructure that supports both the buyer's journey and the agent's performance.
Let's look at the buyer side first. With that platform called Cobbleridge AI, I found the philosophy behind this AI really interesting.
How so?
Well, the documents make a point that buyers don't miss out on great homes because they didn't search hard enough. They miss out because they didn't know the right questions to ask.
That is so true. Traditional real estate search is entirely passive. You just tell a search engine what you want, and it outputs a list of addresses. But Cobbleridge AI operates dynamically.
Right.
If a buyer types in, "I want a 3-bedroom house in Syosset for under $800,000, the AI doesn't just spit back a list. It asks a probing follow-up.
Like what?
They might respond, "Great. Are you factoring in the $18,000 average annual property taxes in Syosset into your monthly debt-to-income ratio?"
Wow, that is aggressive, but it's brilliant. I was initially skeptical about this, honestly. I mean, buying a home is such an emotional, deeply human milestone.
Yeah, people worry about losing the human touch.
Right. I wondered, does injecting a chatbot into the process strip away the humanity? But when you think about the psychology of it, it actually makes perfect sense. If a human agent tells a buyer, "Hey, you can't afford that town because of the taxes," the buyer gets defensive. They feel judged.
Exactly. AI completely removes the defensiveness. The AI acts as an emotionless, objective mirror. It basically forces the buyer to confront their true financial reality in private.
So they can process it on their own terms.
Right. It helps them think through property taxes, insurance premiums, and commuting costs in real time, long before they ever fall in love with a property they just can't afford.
And then by the time that buyer actually sits down with their human-exclusive buyer agent, they are grounded in reality. The human agent doesn't have to play the bad guy. They can just focus on strategy.
Which brings us to the human agents themselves. Because this system doesn't just fix the process for the buyer, it attempts to fix a notoriously broken industry for the real estate agents, too.
Yeah, the statistics provided by Agent Leap are just staggering. 87% of new real estate licensees quit the industry within 5 years.
87%.
That is wild.
And the reason for that failure rate is that the traditional industry treats agents like desperate gig workers. The conventional model relies really heavily on buying internet leads. A typical agent might spend $5,000 or more every single year buying clicks from major real estate portals.
And what's the return on that?
Those leads convert into actual clients at a rate of 1% or less.
So the agents are just sitting there cold calling hundreds of strangers who just happen to click on a picture of a nice kitchen, facing constant rejection.
And dealing with massive, unpredictable swings in their income. It's a feast or famine treadmill.
And that desperation directly hurts the buyer. I mean, if your agent hasn't closed a deal in 2 months and desperately needs a commission check to pay their own mortgage, how objective can they really be when you ask them if you should walk away from a house with a bad roof?
They can't be. The agent's financial instability becomes the buyer's liability.
Wow. I never thought about it that way.
Most people don't. And this is exactly what Agent Leap, the coaching platform in this ecosystem, aims to solve. Agent Leap shifts agents away from that onesie-twosie desperate transaction mindset.
How so?
It trains them to build a predictable book of business by becoming corporate real estate benefits providers for the EHAP program. They don't buy internet leads. They partner with local employers who then introduce them to a steady stream of pre-engaged EHAP-enrolled employees.
But, getting an HR director to agree to partner with you requires a massive level of professionalism. You can't just stumble your way through a pitch to a corporate executive.
Definitely not. And that is where the second piece of tech comes in, Agent Voice.
Right? Agent Voice is an AI voice role coaching platform.
Instead of an agent practicing their presentations or their negotiation strategies on actual real-life clients where a mistake could blow a massive deal, they speak directly into the AI.
That is so smart.
The system evaluates them on a 1 to 10 scale in real time. It grades their clarity, their tone, their persuasiveness, and how well they handle objections.
So it's basically a hyper-advanced flight simulator for real estate negotiation.
Exactly. By the time that agent actually picks up the phone to talk to an HR director or negotiate with a private seller, they have refined their message perfectly. They've already handled every possible objection a dozen times with the AI.
And if we look at how this benefits the listener, the buyer, it means that when you finally connect with your exclusive agent, you aren't getting a stressed-out gig worker chasing a commission.
Right. You're getting a highly trained, deeply practiced fiduciary advocate. The AI isn't replacing the human. It is actively upgrading the human's ability to protect you.
So when we zoom out and look at this entire stack of sources, what we're really looking at is a total architectural redesign of how real estate happens.
It really is.
It takes the chaos of the traditional market, the dual agency traps, the desperate agents, the bidding wars in glass rooms, and replaces it with structure. By turning homeownership into a corporate benefit via EHAP, utilizing exclusive buyer agents to eliminate conflicts, and unlocking 0% commission private sales, the process becomes educational, predictable, and fair.
It challenges the core assumptions of the industry. And it leaves us with a really profound implication to consider.
Yeah.
If we zoom out beyond Long Island, what happens if this model scales? If major corporations across the country begin adopting home ownership assistance programs as standard benefits to retain talent, how might that fundamentally reshape the culture of our cities?
That's a huge question.
Could the corporate benefits package of the future be the ultimate tool for revitalizing local neighborhoods, anchoring workforces to their communities, and genuinely solving regional housing crises?
That is an incredible thought to walk away with. If the company you work for becomes the very mechanism that allows you to afford the town you love, the concepts of corporate loyalty and community building are forever changed.
They really are.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this gives you a new lens through which to view your own financial and professional leverage. Keep questioning the systems around you, because as we saw today, just because an entire industry tells you to simply search here and click there doesn't mean it's the only way to find your way home. Catch you next time.